Hello, hello, hello again. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Experts. My name is Jay Vix, and I am the host. And I just realized that I think the camera is a little bit closer on me than I usually do. I had to take it out of the office yesterday, so reframing today was a bit fun. So I'm a little bit bigger in the screen today than I'm used to. So it threw me off. But I hope wherever you are in the world watching this, that you're having a great day. Meet the Experts is really just a concept that we came up with a few years ago. We didn't come up with it. It's been done. We thought we came up with it, and then I read a whole book about it. But business owners need content. They need video content, and a lot of business owners just it's daunting to make video content. Some business owners don't want to pick up their phone and record a snippet because they're like, what do I say? I don't like the sound of my own voice, blah, 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 blah. So, as a digital marketing agency, we thought, well, we have the tools, the technology. We can record people on video and give business owners some free video content. And we started this interview series where we talk to different experts in their field, business owners, managers, C-level, or just thought leaders, and give them some free video content. So if you happen to have something, products or services that you'd like to share in video, stick around till the end of the episode, and I will tell you exactly how you can become a future guest on Meet the Experts. Today's episode is brought to you by Journey Builder. GetJourneyBuilder.com. It is a world-class all-in-one marketing software solution with a CRM and then about every other marketing tool you can imagine all under one roof. It's really, really cool, and excited to talk about that, but not today. Today's guest, Stephen Shortt. Stephen is going to be fun. He just told me a few minutes ago before we brought him on, he's like, I'm ready to go. Give me a microphone. I'm Irish. Give me a microphone and I'm good. And he's our first guest from Ireland. He hails from Dublin. I have a cousin who's married to someone who's also from Ireland, so I always love talking about Ireland. But he is going to talk about succession planning. So what do you do? How do you leave a legacy, right? Or how do you leave something to family? And he's going to tell us all about that. He's the director of ETC Consult and Distributed Training. Without further ado, that's just like my go-to now. Without further ado, I got to come up with something better to bring guests on the screen. But anyway, Stephen, hey, good morning or good afternoon to you. How the heck are you?
Good afternoon. I'm fantastic. Thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing well. I got to remember sometimes who I'm speaking to and where they are in the world as I'm like, good morning. And you're like, nah, it's like 2 o'clock in the one or two in the afternoon there. So
1 o'clock in the afternoon here. Yeah.
1 o'clock at the time of recording, which is actually interesting because when this episode does release, we usually release them at like 11 in the morning. So it'll be like 4 p.m. when it finally comes out. Anyway, enough intro stuff. I'm glad you're having a good day. I'm really excited about the interview because I'm obviously having a family. I want, I don't really think about this enough as like what happens with my business at some point or what's going to happen. So I'm really interested from a personal standpoint, maybe selfish reasons, to learn a little bit more about succession planning. But before we get into all that fun stuff, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
I'm Stephen from Dublin in Ireland. I have a couple of businesses. One is Successful Succession, where I help family businesses to scale through the generations. The reason it's so important to me is because many years ago, I nearly walked away from the family business. So I've grown up in two family businesses. I bought both of them. We sold one just before the pandemic, and that was 100% reliant on international travel. So we won the lottery basically that day. And now I focus on psychometrics, personality profiling for career guidance and to help companies find the right people for the right positions. And I have a passion for helping family businesses to be able to scale through the generations.
That's really, that gets me excited, and I want to. So now let's talk a little bit about your services, right? Your products and services and who they help. So kind of give us a rundown of who is that target audience. I'm assuming it's a small family business, but I'll let you dive deeper into that. But what are some of the services that you offer?
Yeah, so for family business side of things, I do some consulting. I do a little bit of coaching, but the coaching that I do is mainly around personality, because I've found that a lot of the time some of the conflict, a lot of the time some of the conflict, a lot of the time the conflict, is works 100% of the time, 60% of the time, something like that. No, the most of the conflict in family businesses is a difference of perception and a difference in personality and how people approach the same issue. So the current generation, let's say they're the founding generation, they've put the blood, sweat, and tears into it. The next generation hasn't had to do the had they've probably had sacrifices and really worked hard in the business, but they haven't really worked their fingers to the bone in the way that the current generation might have. So there can be a risk aversion on the current generation, and less of a tolerance for risk reward, and they feel that they've more to lose, and they're looking at it from more of a maybe a results type or view of the business, whereas the next generation might be more thought leadership or might be more process driven or something like that. And so understanding those different personalities at play and those different perspectives can really help to bridge a lot of that gap and help people get move past the conflict to a resolution that's in the best interest of the family.
So, okay, so when you consult with them and you're going through, I just want to kind of follow up on that. Is it like is there a length of time, a contract? Is it a retain? Like how what it like what take me through some of the basic processes that you might go through with them.
So normally what I do is I sit down with individual family members. We'll do I'll do a chat with them first to see, get an idea of what the scenario is, and that's like an hourly rate to be able to understand um, where the current generation is, where the next generation is, where the future of the business, where both sides see the future of the business, or all three generations or whatever it is see the future of the business. Then I'll have a talk with everybody together, because sometimes as the external person who is somewhat of an expert in family businesses and succession planning, I can ask questions that don't have the same baggage as when the second child decides to ask about compensation or something like that. That there's a lot of things that can be triggered because of the family dynamic, whereas having somebody external to be able to have those conversations means it's easier to actually get to the truth, instead of, well, your Auntie Joan 65 years ago said something that made your mother unhappy or something. So it, like, all of that stuff disappears when there's somebody else in the room. So it helps to get people aligned. And if you go through the conflict, crucial conversations, to get past that conflict and understanding where the next stages are, that allows it. And sometimes that can be all that they need. They actually just need to have an idea of the clarity and how they can now work together. I might come in and do a strategy day or a planning day with them again later on down the road, or I can recommend them to some EOS implementers or some scaling up implementers, or people who specialize in the structure of the business. Because a lot of the time, once we can get over the personality and how the generations interact, then it becomes a business with an extra component.
That's really smart. It's a brilliant concept. Because I would think that, like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, that would really be a rough conversation over like a Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably not something you want to talk about, like the intricacies of handing over a business or passing down a business,
Yeah.
with all of the, that you need that objective voice in the room.
So the other things I've built this framework. So I mean, you said you were saying successful succession is like, it can be a mouthful, the title of the business, and I understand that, which makes it even more complicated that I'm Stephen Shortt from Successful Succession. So there's a lot of S's in there. So the framework that I built was going to be the 5 S's of successful succession, but there's too many S's. So it's the 5 P's of successful succession. And the first one is, it starts with the purpose. What are we here to do? What's the business here to do? And the purpose can change over time, and it can change from generation to generation. We see this all the time. But having a clear idea of what we want to accomplish with the business is the first starting point. And that's how we get everyone aligned. And also how we say to people, look, if this isn't what you're interested in, maybe the family business is not for you. Like, if you're not bought into the purpose, the ultimate vision of what we're doing, it's not going to work.
Right.
Then we have the pick, and the pick is in older businesses, you might have seen like O'Neill's and Sons. As soon as the first son was born, the business was renamed to Smith and Son or whatever. So the pick already happened, whether the kid liked it or not. Nowadays, thankfully, we've moved past a lot of that, and it doesn't have to be the firstborn son is the heir apparent. Different people in different whether the second, third, whatever child, male, female, doesn't matter, or even nieces, nephews. I mean, we've seen all kinds of iterations of this. Who's the right person to get us to that purpose? Sorry, who's the right person? Who's the right pick to get us to that purpose? And it also doesn't have to be this person for the next 30 years. We might say, actually, our purpose is to get to being $12 million a year. And then once we get to $12 million a year, we think we've built a moat and we're sustainable enough. So we need somebody to get us to that 12 million. Then we need somebody to really gradually scale and keep us solid after that. So it doesn't have to be the same person all the time, which can also lead to interesting conversations in the dynamic of the family when two people feel that they should be the leader for different reasons. Then the pick then leads to prepare. So the person has to get ready. There's different ways that they can get ready. They can either come into the company as low as possible and work their way up, obviously with coaching and mentoring and everything else, or they can go external. They can go work for another company, build their way up there, and then come back in at the same level. The worst thing, and I have seen this, and it has never ever worked well, is when the son or daughter of the current generation is brought in as the senior VP of marketing just because they have a TikTok and an Instagram account. So like, it doesn't work like that. So they've got to learn the chops. They've got to be able to prove that they deserve what they're earning. Otherwise, they won't have the respect of the team. They won't have, like, there's all kinds of problems with that. So then once we have the prepare, once the current generation feels, okay, it's time to go, it's time for me to hand over the reins, the prepare bit should be a absolute maximum of 5 years to try and give as much historic knowledge to the next generation as possible. And then the next P is promote. You got to get the hell out of the way. Pass the baton to the next generation and let them run with it. Now, there's two meanings of the word promote. First is obviously you give them the job. You say, okay, here you go. You're now in charge. The second promote, though, is you've got to be the next generation's biggest cheerleader. Because if you got people in the company who've been working with you for 20 years and they go, oh, look, Junior's made this change and I'm not really sure. They just want to consult with the current generation. And it's super easy for the current generation to be like, oh, I'll have a word with them and see if we can make an exception or something. You, at the current generation, have to be the biggest cheerleader and say, no, Junior's decision, I 100% stand by it. And I think it's their decision. I'm not getting involved. You can have whatever coaching conversations you want behind closed doors, but publicly, you have to be the biggest promoter of the next generation. Then the final P is patience, because people are involved. So the proverbial is going to hit the fan at some point. Something's going to go wrong at one point or another, or there's going to be conflict, or somebody's going to overstep or make a mistake. We're all human. We got to have a bit of patience and keep moving on.
I love the P's. I'm glad you went with the P's, and they all make a ton of sense. And all I could think of when you first started talking was, I hope you never start selling seashells by the seashore, because that would be the longest, most craziest tongue twister I ever heard. So just stick with
that's a family business. That's a family business that I need to get involved with and help. Shelley's Seashells by the Seashore, helped by Stephen Shortt from Successful Succession. Even I'm having a difficulty saying it.
You did it. That was great. Yeah, no, that's all I could think was, oh my gosh, that would be the biggest one. All right, cool. So look, Stephen, you obviously you don't get to be successful in business. How long you been doing this now?
The succession planning, I've been proactively doing it about 3-4 years now with clients. Before that, it was more ad hoc with people that I knew. Like, I've grown up with a lot of people in family businesses because 13, 14 years ago, I nearly walked away from the whole family business structure and the two businesses. So I know what it's like, and I know what I needed to do at the time, like what I did at the time, the research that I did, the people that I sought out people to go, here, how did this work for you and what happened? And I learned a lot at the time, and that's what I implemented to be able to take over the family businesses. So the story is, like, I came home one day and I just slumped at the kitchen table and said, I got to leave the family business. There's no way I can stay in the family business. My eldest daughter was playing at like 2-3 years old in the kitchen. My wife was pregnant with our second child. I said, if if I don't leave the family business, my parents will never see their grandkids because we won't be able to be in the same room as each other. We were just at each other's throats over everything. When I said that out loud, I viscerally responded. My whole body reacted. I was like, no, that's not what we want. That's not the way to go. So then I started doing the homework. I started doing reading and reaching out to people, finding out more and learning about how other people have done it. That's as I came up with this framework and started implementing some of these things. And now fast forward like 3 years ago, my wife and I, we sold our family home. We moved into my family home. So my parents live downstairs, we live upstairs. And we're all living and still kind of working and mentoring in the same space, which would have been unheard of all those years ago. And I have a photograph of us having our first Christmas dinner at the same kitchen table that we brought from my old house, where I was going to leave the family business, and we're all living together and still working together. So that's
amazing. That is really cool. Well, the reason I was poking at that question was because in order to stay in business for a while or for a long time, or even 3 or 4 years or 13, 14 years of being in a family business that's obviously successful, you've had to have some people say some nice things about you, right? And spread the word about you. So do you have any particular testimonials or client wins that you've got that are just kind of like the case study, cream of the crop, the one you'd think about right off the top of your head?
So the one, it's actually not a client. It's a friend of mine who is current generation. He started his business. He's been in business for 20 years. And I was talking to him about some presentation stuff. He's a presentation coach. And I was talking to him about some stuff. And I was explaining the whole ethos around this. And so I have the talk. I think you have it down on the bottom here. Build a killer family business without killing your family. That's a keynote that I have. And it's a book that I'm writing. So I was kind of spitballing some stuff with him. And the more I talked, the more he was thinking about it, that he never imagined that he could have a family business. But he has 2 young kids. He's 2 kids. One of them is 21 now. And this is about 3 years ago. And his son is now working with him in the business. But we figured out a way that the son doesn't want to do exactly what he's doing, but there's elements of the business that the son really enjoys doing. So this is, it comes back to one of the thought challenges that I have for people, which is, imagine if I was to say to you as a succession planning coach that no family member should ever join the family business. It's our job as the current generation to make sure that the family business joins the family member. So if the next generation isn't going to be exactly a carbon copy of us and doing exactly what we're doing, what can we do now to move the company 1 degree, 2 degrees in that direction? So in 10 years time, when they're on their trajectory, that they meet at the right point and they're set up for success using the family business and changing the direction of the business a little bit to suit their strengths, their interests, and their passions. And he's got that now. So his son is working in the business, building up a different part of it, which is an idea that I call, we're all familiar with the side hustle. So everyone has, people have a side hustle to do this, to do that, the other. In family businesses for the next generation, I encourage people to have an inside hustle. What's a program? What's a product? What's a service? What's a bolt-on that we can have where the next generation gets to learn the culture of the business, understand the industry, do all the bits and pieces, build something for themselves using the resources. If it works, it gets folded back in and perhaps even becomes the main product of the company, as we've seen many times. Or if it doesn't work, it's like, okay, we can let it go without killing the whole business. So it helps the next generation to be able to learn everything they need to know. So they're doing that right now. So that's the first thing that jumped into my head when you talked about that.
That's great. When you said it, I actually used to work for a company. I still do some contract work with them, but they've done almost the same thing. They've got the family business, but one of the sons he's helped them under the same LLC start this clothing line that has really taken off. But and I think it's a form of exactly what you just said.
No,
it is
inside hustle
in the same industry. It's an inside hustle. I love that. Very cool. All right, awesome. We got a couple more questions for you. We can breeze through this one because we've talked a lot about it. I know your experience has kind of guided the way, but we always call it earned it, learned it, improved your authority. I think you've shown how you proved your authority by living and doing this in real life. But any other titles or certifications that helped you be a succession coach?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm Hogan certified for Hogan assessments, and that's what we use for the personality side of things. I actually am now, I certify other people, so I'm a trainer of Hogan certification workshops. So I'm fairly embedded in personality profiling. We've actually developed our own assessments for career guidance. But it's not really the family business side of thing. That's for people who want to discover what their ideal career is. And I'm not certified, but like we've developed courses on interview skills. So we help individuals with to stand out from the competition, their job interviews. So I understand what companies are looking for, and we do selection for companies as well, based on the candidate's personality and aptitudes to be able to see who's the best person for this role.
Very cool.
So
That's
mostly
awesome.
experience, couple of certificates, but it's very much practical, hands-on, working with people and understanding. That's nice in theory, but what's actually practically good for the business.
We've when I've asked that question, I bet you I've spoken to several of my guests who have often said, you know, there's theoretical and then there's real life, and a lot of the
Mm.
experience of the successful entrepreneurs, a lot of it didn't come from the books; it came from the hands-on or the real life. So
Now, I'm a huge advocate of continuous professional development, and I think there's a concept called that I call casual learning. Rather than going off and doing a 3-year degree, those things have their place, and they're really great, and some people get a huge benefit of it. But a lot of people, and people like me, the idea of doing 3 years of dedicated study into stuff that's academic is not really for me. I love just going, okay, how do I need to do this? Okay, I'll watch a couple of YouTubes, I'll do a masterclass, I'll do this, I'll do that, to learn casually, rather
casual.
than in a very formal, long-term commitment. So casual learning, I think, is going to be the future of a lot of entrepreneurs.
I would agree 100%, and that's kind of my take as well. All right, well, look, we got two more questions. And this one, I usually change gears a little bit. I mean, personally, professionally, you know, when I say what is Stephen Shortt really truly thankful for?
Um, I mean, it probably shouldn't come as a surprise for somebody who helps people with family businesses. But I mean, my family is the thing that I'm probably most thankful for. As I said, I live together. There's 3 generations of us now live in the same house. My parents are still amazing advisors, mentors, and I bounce a lot of ideas off them. Like this, when we start getting technical, when we started building software and things like that, they don't have any of, not concept, but they're they can't help in those things. But business values, ideas, like being able to help make decisions, they're invaluable. My wife is a pure rock. She has a real job. She's a teacher. So she doesn't have any of this mad entrepreneurial, what if we do this, craziness. So she's great at keeping me grounded as well. And again, a huge advisor, and somebody who can really help me to refine ideas by playing devil's advocate, and being able to keep it a little bit grounded. And my kids, who are just grown up to be amazing young women who really have an interest in the world around them, and force me to engage in a way that I don't normally, because they're growing up to be teenagers. So understanding the growth and letting them be themselves, and also trying to help them to shape them to be the best version of themselves. So yeah, my family, I have to say, is probably the biggest thing that I'm proud of and I'm thankful for.
I love it. No, it's a perfect answer, and you are in a very cool situation. I
Mm.
think about the whole, you know, all sharing a house with the 3 generations, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that would be for me, but I mean, it's that you takes a special bond, and that you obviously
I
have.
mean, I do have to say, I'm very lucky that I have a great relationship with my parents, but I'm even luckier that my wife has a great relationship with my parents. So,
Yes.
I mean, that's the bit that can be, when you're living with your in-laws, there's a different dynamic there that can be at play. So, very, very lucky.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, one more question, one final question, and it has to do with questions. Before you
Okay.
start working with someone, you probably get asked maybe a couple of questions before somebody commits to working with you. But is there
Hmm.
that one frequently asked question that like pretty much you just know it's like that's when is this question just going to show up because it's going to happen? Do you have any frequently asked questions, and how would you answer it?
I suppose it's not questions because I mean it's kind of clear what I do. So people, there's questions like how do I do it and how do we do what's the process and things like that. I suppose it's more comments that I hear when we're digging into some of these questions. Like my kids, none of my kids show any interest in the business is one that I hear quite a bit from this generation, and they think all these millennials or these whatever they're so entitled they don't want to do hard work. But actually, when we dig into that one, what I find is a lot of these people who are running successful businesses, they don't have an outlet. They don't have somewhere where they can go to unload these tough days and everything else, except at home. So when they come home and they're having dinner at the kitchen table, all the kids hear as they're growing up is that stupid supplier, that oh my god, that employee could have killed them, or this didn't work, or that didn't work, or this went sideways. And all they hear is the negativity because it's the only place that the current generation can really vent and can really let that out. So the kids are growing up going, why would I want to join that hellhole of a business? It sounds horrendous. Then what happens a lot of the time is when they're 15, 16, they're kind of lounging around at home. They're too old for camps. They're not going out getting a job somewhere else. And the parents are looking at them going, you are not sitting on your ass for this summer. You're coming with me into the office. And they start going into the office to the family business to do bits and pieces. And that's when they start to discover, actually marketing is great. Oh, geez, I really like the process side of this, or wow, the finance, like, and then they start to discover the beneficial parts of owning a business and running a business and what's enjoyable for us as individuals. And that's when they start to get a taste of it. So what I say to people, even if we don't end up working together, is like, just start changing the narrative of what you're discussing at home and sharing the benefits. Like, there's a million ways in the world that we can make money. Why are you choosing to do this? What's the benefit? What do you see in this that can give them a better reflection? And if you're looking for a place to be able to join some people who are also entrepreneurs, I'd recommend the Entrepreneurs Organization. I've been a member for 10 years. It's an amazing place to be able to learn and grow from your peers, and a safe space for you to be able to dump all of this crap that we all have to deal with as the lonely entrepreneur.
That's awesome. And you gave me a recommendation to look for the one in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. So
So
I have to go back and look back at that.
eonetwork.org is the website for entrepreneurs. It's a phenomenal peer-to-peer learning organization, global.
I love that. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for being a guest today on Meet the Experts. Stick around backstage. I really appreciated having you on, and you did great. I thought all the everything you talked about is just so fascinating to me because I haven't had anybody. I don't think I've actually ever spoken to somebody who does succession planning before. So it's kind of a new concept that I've heard passed down the business a lot, but this was different, unique, and refreshing. So thank you.
Good. My pleasure. Thanks very much. I'll go hang out backstage with the drinks and the snacks.
I'll join you in a few. All right. Thanks so much. Awesome. That was a fun interview. I even did not say my Irish chili joke. Stephen probably heard it, and I didn't want to get the groan, so I'll leave that one for another day. But anyway, I promised you if you stuck around to the end of the episode that I would tell you how you can become a future guest on Meet the Experts. It's a fun time. I laughed a lot in that episode, and it's always a good time to get some of these things on video, these sound bites on video. It makes for great social media content, website content, email content, just content in general. So if you want to be a guest on Meet the Experts, please visit www.meettheexpertspodcast.com. Meet the Experts with an S. Meettheexpertspodcast.com. Just read all about it. It's a full webpage, tons of information, what you get for free, and then there's some other options if you did want us to help you promote it and turn it into more of an official podcast. We can do that with some promotion. But look, it's real simple. It doesn't cost you anything. You fill out the form on that website. We'll try to handle the rest. We'll set up a quick interview, pre-interview sound check, and then we're off to the races. So it's really easy process. You don't need any fancy technology, just a decent internet connection and a microphone and maybe some earbuds. But anyway, our next episode, I'm actually getting ready to record another one this week, and I've got several lined up. So be on the lookout for the next episode, and we will talk very soon. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are.